Your daughter is missing. She never got out of the taxi. That was the text I received at 9:43 p.m., right in the middle of my emergency shift at St. Luke's Medical Center. I stared at the screen, frozen. My fingers went numb. My chest tightened. I couldn't even breathe. My name is Claire Jennings. I'm a 34-year-old ER doctor, and I've been a single mom for the past 3 years. My daughter, Lily, is 5. She's my entire world, my reason for every late night, every cup of reheated coffee, every tired smile. Ever since my ex-husband walked out on us when Lily was barely 2, it's been just the two of us. I've sacrificed everything for her. I've worked double shifts, missed sleep, missed meals, but I never miss a moment when it comes to her safety. So how did I end up handing her over to the one person I should have never trusted? My younger sister, Ivy. To the outside world, Ivy Bennett is a glamorous lifestyle influencer. 1 million followers on Instagram, designer handbags, weekly spa days, private rooftop parties. But behind the filtered perfection is someone deeply self-absorbed and irresponsibly careless. Still, I was desperate. My usual babysitter had the flu. My neighbor had a family emergency. Everyone else was unavailable. So, against my better judgment, I called Ivy. I even begged her. "I'll only be gone for one night," I said. "Can you please stay with Lily? Just dinner, bath, bedtime, nothing complicated." Ivy sounded distracted, like she was already doing her makeup. Yeah, I've got it. I'll take her somewhere fun." That should have been my first red flag. I packed Lily's overnight bag with her pajamas, her toothbrush, her stuffed elephant, and her favorite bedtime storybook. Before I left for the hospital, I knelt down, held her tiny hands, and said, "If you ever feel scared, call Mommy. I'll come right away." She nodded, smiled, and hugged me. That was the last safe moment I had. The next few hours were a blur of trauma calls, CPR, and stitches, until my phone buzzed with that text. "Your daughter is missing." I called Ivy immediately. No answer. I called again, straight to voicemail. I left the nurse's station, hands trembling, and texted, "What do you mean Lily is missing? Where is she? Answer me now." 10 minutes later, I got a voice message. Ivy's tone was casual, almost annoyed. "Claire, calm down. I had a party to go to, so I told the driver to wait while I got out. I thought Lily was following me, but I guess she stayed in the car? I assumed she'd come in. It's not a big deal." Not a big deal. She left a 5-year-old girl alone in a taxi. At night, in Chicago. My hands were shaking so badly, I could barely hold my phone. I left the hospital immediately, called the police, and filed a report. Every terrifying possibility ran through my mind. What if the driver wasn't honest? What if he just drove off? What if Lily got out and wandered into traffic? I couldn't breathe thinking about her crying, scared, calling for me, wondering why I wasn't there. Then came the call from the police. A kind stranger had seen Lily crying outside a cafe, alone and barefoot. Apparently, she'd gotten out of the cab on her own and wandered several blocks. A woman had approached her, and Lily had said through tears, "I can't find my aunt." She left me. The woman called 911. I didn't know whether to scream or collapse. They were taking Lily to the local station. I rushed there faster than I'd ever driven in my life. When I arrived, I saw her sitting on a bench, wrapped in a too-big hoodie, holding her stuffed elephant like it was her only lifeline. "Mommy!" she cried and ran to me. I held her, sobbing. She was safe. But I wasn't. Because something inside me broke that night. Ivy hadn't just endangered my child. She had betrayed every ounce of trust I gave her. She partied, posed for selfies, and drank champagne while my daughter stood alone in the dark, waiting for someone, anyone, to care. And that's when I decided she was going to pay. Every brand deal, every follower, every fake smile. I was going to take it all away, and I'd make sure she never got close to Lily again. When I got home with Lily that night, she clung to me like her life depended on it. She wouldn't let go. Not while I was making tea, not while I was trying to change out of my scrubs. She just kept whispering, You won't leave me too, right? I tucked her into bed and sat beside her until she fell asleep, still holding her stuffed elephant like a shield. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat in the living room, staring at my phone, reading Ivy's Instagram posts from just hours earlier. She had gone live from a rooftop bar, showing off champagne glasses, glittery heels, and a table full of influencers with perfect hair and empty heads. One of her captions read, "Best night ever, no drama, just vibes, champagne kiss." And my daughter had been wandering the streets, barefoot and crying, at that exact moment. I wanted to throw my phone across the room. But I didn't, because rage like that needed direction. It needed focus. Ivy didn't just make a mistake. She didn't trip and fall. She made a choice. A selfish, dangerous choice. And then she laughed about it. The next morning, she called me like nothing had happened. "Hey, so I saw your text storm. Relax, Claire. Everything's fine now, don't be so dramatic." I could barely get words out. "You left a 5-year-old in a taxi and went to a rooftop party." "Well, yeah, but she's okay, isn't she? You seriously overreact to everything." I nearly dropped the phone. Overreact? She could have been kidnapped. She could have been hit by a car. She could have... I stopped myself. My voice was shaking. Ivy snorted. "You're always so uptight. No wonder your ex left." That was it. I hung up. I stood in the middle of my kitchen, heart pounding, hands shaking. And that's when it hit me. I had spent years walking on eggshells around Ivy, apologizing, downplaying her reckless behavior, making excuses for her because she's family. But now she had crossed the one line I would never forgive. She hurt my daughter, and that's when the shift happened. I stopped crying, I stopped trembling, and I started planning. First, I documented everything. Screenshots, voice messages, the police report, the recording from the security camera outside the cafe, which showed Lily stumbling out of the taxi alone. Everything. Next, I contacted the brands listed in Ivy's Instagram bio, the ones she bragged about constantly: beauty products, luxury candles, fitness gummies. I sent each of them a private, factual message. No emotion, no insults, just the evidence. I told them this influencer they partnered with had endangered a child, and I attached the police report. A few days later, Ivy called me in a rage. "What the hell did you do? My deal with Novaglow just got pulled, and Lumiskin blocked me." I stayed calm. "I didn't do anything except tell the truth." "You're ruining my career." "You already did that. I'm just letting the world see it." She screamed at me, cursed at me, threatened to sue. But there's nothing illegal about sharing public police records and truthfully reporting someone's actions to the companies that pay them. Over the next 2 weeks, Ivy lost 5 sponsorships. 2 events disinvited her. Her follower count started dropping. She posted a teary-eyed video blaming haters and jealous family members. But the comments weren't sympathetic. People asked, "Where was the child you were supposed to be watching?" Others wrote, "If this is true, you're done." The world she built on filters and fake smiles was cracking. And that wasn't even the worst part, because Lily had started wetting the bed again. One night, she woke up screaming from a nightmare. She clung to me, sobbing, saying, "Don't leave me in the car again, Mommy. Please." That's when I called my lawyer, and I filed a motion with the court to restrict Ivy from ever having unsupervised contact with Lily again. But Ivy didn't take it seriously. She laughed about it in her group chat, saying I was milking the drama, until the court date came. And she walked into the courtroom in heels and designer sunglasses, only to see that I had brought something she never expected: the taxi driver. Ivy strutted into that courtroom like it was just another red carpet event. She wore a white pantsuit, oversized sunglasses, and heels that clicked like gunshots on the floor. She even smiled for the reporters outside. Yes, reporters. Because by then, the story had gone viral. Influencer abandons niece for rooftop party had been picked up by local media, and people were watching. She thought this was all a performance. What she didn't know was that this time she wasn't in control of the narrative. I sat quietly at the plaintiff's table with my lawyer, keeping my eyes forward. Lily wasn't with me. She was safe at home with a trusted friend, but I carried a small photo of her in my bag. I needed that reminder of why I was doing this. The judge called the case. Ivy rolled her eyes like it was all a joke. When she was asked to give her statement, she painted herself as the victim. "She's blowing this way out of proportion," Ivy said. "It was just a miscommunication. I didn't abandon anyone. Lily was safe the whole time." The judge narrowed her eyes. "So you left a 5-year-old unattended in a taxi in downtown Chicago at night?" "I thought she was behind me," Ivy insisted. "Kids wander. That's what they do." My lawyer stood up. "Your Honor, the facts of this case aren't based on speculation. We have a police report, video evidence, and multiple witnesses." Then he nodded, and the courtroom doors opened. The taxi driver walked in. He was a tall man in his 60s, clearly uncomfortable being there, but he had agreed to testify after I reached out and explained everything. He took the stand and recounted it all. How Ivy jumped out of the cab mid-call, how she never turned around, how Lily sat silently in the back seat for almost a full minute before whispering, "Where's my aunt?" The courtroom was dead silent. Ivy's smirk faded. The judge leaned forward. "Miss Bennett, did you confirm the child exited the vehicle with you before leaving?" I assumed. Assumption is not a defense when it comes to a child's safety." But I wasn't finished. My lawyer handed the judge a folder. Inside were screenshots from Ivy's group chat, messages I had obtained through one of her former friends who had grown disgusted with her behavior. In the screenshots, Ivy mocked the incident. "Claire's being psychotic. The kid's fine. Maybe this'll give me a sympathy boost online, Lowell. Worst case, I cry on TikTok. They eat that sup." The judge looked physically ill reading it. And then came the moment that made the entire courtroom gasp. One of the screenshots showed Ivy bragging about getting rid of Lily's overnight bag. "Threw away that raggedy elephant thing. Looked gross. She'll live." She threw away Lily's stuffed elephant, the one she's had since she was a baby, the one she was hugging when I found her at the police station. My breath caught in my throat. I hadn't seen that message before. My lawyer had saved it as a final card to play. I looked over at Ivy. Her face was pale now. No more smug smiles. No more posing, just silence. The judge's voice was cold and sharp. "Effective immediately, Miss Ivy Bennett is barred from having any contact, direct or indirect, with Lily Jennings. Any violation will result in criminal charges. Furthermore, this case will be referred for review under potential child endangerment statutes." Ivy started to protest, but her voice cracked. The bailiff told her to sit down, but then, as the courtroom started clearing, my lawyer tapped my shoulder. "There's something else," he said, lowering his voice. "I just got confirmation from the brand attorney at Lumiskin. They're not just dropping her, they're suing her for breach of conduct and reputational damage." I turned to look at Ivy one last time, and saw her staring at her phone, frozen, as she read the email. Her career wasn't just over. She was about to be dragged into court herself. Comment the number 1 if you want to see how Ivy will pay for this. Ivy thought losing a few sponsors was the worst that could happen. She had no idea that was just the beginning. After the court banned her from contacting Lily and the lawsuit from Lumiskin landed in her inbox, she went silent. No more rooftop parties. No more vibe check selfies. Her Instagram went dark. But I wasn't done. Not even close. She had humiliated me as a mother and traumatized my daughter. I wasn't going to let her just disappear quietly and rebrand in 6 months like nothing happened. I wanted the world to see who she really was. So I got strategic. First, I reached out to the mother of another influencer Ivy had once collaborated with. I remembered her because Ivy had once mocked her child for having a speech delay. On camera. The video never made it online, but the mother had kept the raw footage. She was still furious. She sent me a copy. Then I compiled everything. The police report, screenshots, video from the cafe, courtroom transcripts, and now this behind-the-scenes footage of Ivy mocking a child. I put it all in a cloud folder. Nothing edited, no commentary, just facts. Then I sent it to a small but respected online investigative journalist known for exposing influencers and fake online personas. It took less than 48 hours for the story to go viral again. The headline, "Behind the Filters: The Dangerous Truth About Ivy Bennett." The article didn't sensationalize. It didn't exaggerate. It simply told the truth, backed by evidence, and it painted a devastating picture. Negligence, cruelty, entitlement, and underneath it all, a shocking disregard for a child's life. Brands began blacklisting her. Her former PR agent posted publicly that they had severed ties. Ivy tried to fight back with a sob story on her YouTube channel, claiming she was misunderstood, that she loved her niece deeply and was just overwhelmed. But it was too late. The comment section was brutal. "You left a child in a cab to get a drink. Mocking a kid with a disability? You're disgusting. Hope you enjoy being irrelevant." Her subscriber count dropped by the thousands. People began mass reporting her content. Sponsors publicly distanced themselves. But here's the part that really made me pause. I got a call from a local charity. They said Ivy had been volunteering there, uninvited, taking pictures with underprivileged kids, using it as damage control. When they found out what she had done, they not only kicked her out, they wrote a public statement condemning her actions. The fallout spread like wildfire, but I wasn't prepared for what came next. One afternoon, while Lily was napping, I got a call from a private investigator I'd hired weeks earlier. It wasn't about Ivy's influencer life. I had asked him to quietly dig into her finances. Something didn't add up. "Claire," he said, "you're going to want to sit down." I did. He continued, "Your parents left a trust fund for Lily before they passed. It was meant to be sealed until Lily turned 18. My heart stopped. Ivy filed paperwork 2 years ago claiming custody, fake documentation. She gained limited access to the account, under the pretense that she was Lily's guardian. She's been siphoning small amounts ever since. Nearly $20,000 are missing." I couldn't speak. I felt the air leave my lungs. I had trusted her to watch Lily for one night, and it turns out she had been stealing from my daughter for years. That wasn't just betrayal. That was criminal. I filed a report immediately. Fraud, identity misrepresentation, embezzlement. She was already on thin ice with the law after the court case. This would push her over the edge. And then came the final blow. 2 days later, Ivy was arrested. Mugshot, handcuffs, orange jumpsuit. The story made the local news. But it was Lily's quiet question that haunted me most that night. She looked at me and said, "Mommy, was she ever really my family?" I didn't know how to answer. Because the truth is, family isn't just blood. It's who protects you when no one else will. The first time I visited Ivy in jail, she didn't even lift her head. She sat behind the glass divider, eyes swollen, hair a mess, jumpsuit wrinkled and oversized. The proud influencer who once curated every pixel of her life now looked like someone who didn't even recognize herself anymore. I didn't go there for closure. I didn't go to forgive her. I went so she could see me. I wanted her to look into the eyes of the sister she once mocked, the mother she once endangered, and the woman who, despite everything, refused to break. I picked up the phone. She hesitated, then picked up hers. "You came," she said quietly, voice barely above a whisper. "You stole from my daughter," I replied, calm and sharp. Her lip trembled. "I didn't mean for it to get this bad. Things got out of control." "No," I said. "You let it get out of control. You chose to treat people like props. You chose your image over a child's safety. And then you stole from her." Tears rolled down her cheeks. But I didn't feel sympathy. This wasn't a moment of redemption. It was accountability. And she finally knew what that felt like. Ivy was officially charged with fraud and identity falsification. The court ordered full restitution, plus interest. Every cent she stole from Lily's trust fund had to be paid back. If she failed, she'd face extended sentencing. She was sentenced to 12 months in county jail, followed by mandatory financial counseling and community service with child advocacy groups. But the financial and legal punishment wasn't what truly destroyed her. It was the silence. Her followers were gone. Her brand was poison. No more invitations. No more collaborations. No more photographers begging for her attention. She had become what she feared most: irrelevant. I kept my distance after that visit. I focused on Lily. She was improving. Her nightmares had lessened. She had started drawing again, mostly pictures of us holding hands under the sun. She was healing. One afternoon, months later, I got a letter in the mail. It was from Ivy. I debated tossing it, but I opened it. It was handwritten, sloppy, tear-stained, but honest. She apologized, not just for leaving Lily in that taxi, but for every moment she dismissed me, mocked me, used us. She said she was broken long before she ever heard us. She blamed the attention, the pressure, the hunger for validation, but she didn't excuse herself. She ended the letter with one line: "You protected Lily like no one ever protected me." I was jealous, and I'm sorry. For a moment, I didn't know how to feel. I had spent so long building walls to keep her out, but that line cracked something open. Not forgiveness, but understanding. I didn't write back. Some things don't need responses. Sometimes the silence is the answer. A year after the incident, Lily turned 6. We had a small party with her favorite cake and her closest friends. She laughed so hard she cried when she saw I'd dressed up in a giant elephant costume just to make her smile. That night, as I tucked her into bed, she looked at me and said, "Mommy, I feel safe again." And I knew it was over. The revenge wasn't about ruining Ivy. It was about reclaiming what she tried to take from me: my peace, my strength, my daughter's trust. I stood in Lily's doorway that night, watching her sleep. For the first time in over a year, I felt calm, whole. I had been through fire and didn't just survive. I had rebuilt. And Ivy? She still had time to reflect. Alone. Forgotten. Living in the aftermath of the choices she made. That was her real punishment. Because the internet forgets. But consequences don't. Comment the number 1 if you want more stories like this. And don't forget to subscribe for the next jaw-dropping revenge story.